Now, the third thing, of course, is the interior of Greece, which is in front of us as these rivers move into the interior. And you know this, because if you've traveled in Greece, you know. The minute you leave the coast, what do you find? Mountains. You leave the coast where your little boat can zip, zip, zip around, and what do you find? Mountains. Craggy, hard to get through and around mountains. And in fact, Greece was very hard to get around. And therefore, most people traveled around Greece in boats. You still travel around Mount Athos, which is the Orthodox Church's monastic Vatican, a whole peninsula with multiple monasteries, and you still travel around that peninsula in boats. There are no roads. Each monastery has its own little boat landing, and if you're going from monastery 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, you do it in a boat. So, Greece is two things. It's all this coastal water and all this wonderful light reflected off the water all around the coast, but then on the interior, it's mountains. It's mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains, and hard to get in, hard to get around, and hard to penetrate. And if we go way up high to Delphi, and here we are at the top, we sit at the most important religious center outside of Athens, Delphi. And where do you sit? You sit way up here high. That's where we're sitting. We take this and looking all the way down into the valley below. And so you see, and you're awed by, and you're moved by the extraordinary view of the mountain. So built into its religion, built into its very nature, is the awe of the mountains. And, of course, that's where the gods live. The gods live up in these mountains, up in Mount Olympus. And if you go to see them, if you go to visit them, you may come up here like this. You may come up way up here into the high point and pray and can talk with the Sibyl, with the priestesses. But look at what you see when you're up there, way up at the high, way up at the top. And you look straight down, thousands of feet down into the bottom. And that was exactly what they wanted you to see, was the awe, the awesome high mountains. Okay, so that's another thing. Now the next thing is language. Greek is special. You all know that. You all know that Greek is better than all the other languages of Europe, ancient Greek, more flexible, richer vocabulary, easier to use, infinite ability to say anything you wanted. And so this is another key to Greece, is the special quality of Greek. And we'll get to that in a minute here as to how they got that language. But our picture at this great theater, Epidaurus, near Olympia, near the temples of Olympia. So this is on the Peloponnese. And if we look at this image of the theater at Epidaurus, or if we move on, here's a nice picture of people standing there, Americans standing in the middle of the theater, and of course what they're doing is their friend is up at the top of the theater, and they're about to drop their little quarter onto the stone spot there on the stage, as everybody does, and then they wave to their friend and say, "Did you hear that?" And the answer is, always yes, we still do. 4,000 years later, we still hear, you drop the coin on a little marker there, a little stone marker, and the person sitting at the top bleacher, nosebleed section of the theater can hear the coin drop. That's how good the acoustics are. The theater and the image of these people enjoying the theater, all of this has to do with language, with the genius of the Greek language. The Greeks believed, because of their language, that human beings should and could express themselves out loud, rhetorically. They could speak to their fellow human being, communicate, and that they should do so. Therefore, Greek politics had at its center this kind of theater at which politicians would address the whole community, as many as could crowd into the theater, maybe 20,000 in some of them, and express themselves well. So all through Greek society was the value of language, speech, rhetoric, And therefore, it was assumed by the Greeks that their political leaders could express to them their positions well. Now, if you think about that value for just a minute, that tells you already the kind of politics that Greeks felt were natural to human beings. Free, open, democratic, participatory politics on the part of the individual human being. So that's another thing. It's built into the very nature of the Greeks that they hated tyranny. They really hated the idea of a one-person ruler. And so when Philip of Macedon, the father of Alexander, does conquer the other city-states, they hate him for doing that, and they never stop hating him. So our theater and our history of great theater and our history of plays and our history of rhetoric, all of this leads us back to the temple, which of course is a scene of rhetoric and a scene of worship together and community, leads us back to the temple and back to the idea of the community and language and order and philosophy, all of it summed up in the facade of the Parthenon and the buildings that adjoin the Parthenon, which of course you can see right here have to do with human beings. The human beings are in the middle of it, and the great structure of the Parthenon also. Now, in addition, we should realize that this story of language is going to be a very important part tonight. This is a picture of Troy and the story of Troy and the men who play a part in the story of Troy in the book that we're going to talk about later. All of this is part of something new under the sun, something new in world history, Mediterranean history, and that explains these Greeks and the Greek language and the Greek religion and the Greek philosophy, and therefore now we need to turn to earlier history and explain who these people were and where they came from. We have on our screen a picture of the Bronze Age Charioteers. And the Bronze Age Charioteers, you can see there's a nice book there. If you'd like to read more someday, get Arthur Cotterell, Cotterell. It's new, and it's called Chariot. And it's a wonderful thing about what we're talking about right here, horses and warriors. And the emergence of Bronze Age charioteers, I'll put up this little quick timeline so you can see that we're zipping back into the ancient past here, Paleolithic, Neolithic, birth of domestic plants and animals. And then by 5000 BC, metals, bronze by 5000 BC. All of this is part of the unique story of Greece. Paleolithic 100 to 10, Neolithic 10,000 down to 3, Bronze Age 3,000 to 5, Iron Age something like 1,000 to 0. So those are the ages. This little chart shows you the periods of 8, 7, 6, and 5,000 BC. And what we're interested right now is from 3,000 down to 2,000, and then in 2,000, of course, we start talking about the Bronze Age charioteers. So the Neolithic Revolution, plants and animals, 10,000 BC. Don't you like this cute little thing? Cooked meat, wheels to chase. I love that. Fire, basic. Fellas, we're done evolving. Isn't that cute? And then, of course, here they all sitting, whacking at their rocks with their little whack rockers. And on comes the Bronze Age. Now, Bronze Age charioteers and the Bronze Age is important to our story because the Bronze Age and the Bronze Age charioteers is a moment of a huge invasion into Europe, the Middle East, Asia Minor, going all the way to India and all the way to Egypt. So a huge invasion of new people into this world we're talking about here tonight. So we've jumped way back because we want to explain all those unique things that we just mentioned about Greece. And part of the uniqueness is Bronze Age charioteers. So let's just turn to bronze for just a quick minute here. 3000 BC, the Bronze Age. And our map shows us diffusion of metallurgy. The appearance of bronze is a great step forward for human beings because, of course, it enables them to make things, all kinds of pots and things, but also armor and weapons and rakes and hoes and all the other things you can make with bronze. So the Bronze Age is a huge leap into the future. And one of the key things about the Bronze Age is that in order to make bronze, you need two things at least. You'd like to have some other things too, but you need copper and tin. That is the mix that you make in this molten metal that you make when you make bronze. You heat it up, cook it up, and make it get hot, and then you mix. And the two things that were vital to the creation of bronze, which was so much harder than anything anybody had ever seen before, wood or stone, that the creation of bronze meant a new age. That's why they called it the Bronze Age, right? So, in order to make bronze, you needed copper and tin together, and that meant, inevitably, it meant trade. Do y'all get it? Y'all get it? That if you're going to make bronze and you figure out that in order to make bronze you need these two things, then you figure out a way to get some of that here to what you've got, and then somebody else will come to you and want some of what you've got today. So inevitably, predictably, and to the good of the human community, the Bronze Age meant trade, lots of trade through the Mediterranean. As you can see, Spain had both tin and copper. The Caucasus, that strip between Black Sea and Caspian Sea, it had both tin and copper in large amounts. And then there's some other places in Europe, Austria and some other places that had. But the important thing was that once people came to understand how to make bronze, then they right away found a way to get both metals, the tin and the copper. And so this brought on a new age, technologically, metallurgically, but also international trade. Here is a copper and tin, a bronze ingot, a great big huge piece of bronze. It hasn't been all shaped up and made pretty, but it can, from Crete. So that just shows you what it looks like. And of course, one of the things that it was going to allow these people to make are these, armor. So one of the key things about the Bronze Age is that, of course, it changed warfare and produced beautiful swords and beautiful handles and beautiful all these other things. And so what we get is the art of the Bronze Age, the spectacular metallurgical genius of the Greeks, the Celts, and the others. And most important of all, we get the diffusion of the bronze technology along with the diffusion of the Indo-European language in the hands of the charioteers. So you have all three of these things happening at about the year 2000 BC. That is, Bronze Age technology changing everything, war and everything else, language being carried along by these invaders, and the vehicle in which they were going to make their journey, chariots. So you have all these things coming together at about the year 2000 BC, and one of the key ingredients is the horse. You couldn't do any of this without the horse. You needed the horse, and then once you had the horse, you could make the armor, you could make the swords, you could make the rims for your wheels, you could do all these things, but the first thing you needed was a horse, and we know the first time they were domesticated is about 2800 BC. That is, we have the best, that's the oldest archaeological evidence that we have. It could have been, 1,000 years earlier, but the oldest horse bones that we've found that show the presence of a bit in wear on the jaw is 2800 BC. So that just tells us for sure. By the 28, 27, 26, 2500 BCs, they had domesticized horses, and they had the technology of bronze, and they had the technology of the wheel, and so they were putting them all together. And they spelled Chariot. Did I spell it right? Yes. Chariot. They spell chariot, and this is what it looked like. Isn't that a cute little chariot? That's like, 3,000 years old, that cute little gold chariot. So, language, metallurgical knowledge, trade, movement, war, armor, swords, but most important of all, chariots. Most important of all, chariots. Here is the earliest image of a wheeled vehicle, 3500 BC. Isn't that cute? Look at that little wagon there. That looks like the little wagon I was drawing in the dirt when I was 3 years old. So there's the earliest image we have. So in other words, we know by 3000 that they know about making a little wheel thing. They know how to do it. They know the bronze, and they also know horses, because they're going to know that by 2800. So we can all put this all together and know that by 2000 BC, they have the wheels, they have the wagons, they have the metal rims on their wheels. That's the important thing about this. Metal wheel, because then you can go fast. Horses, bridles, so they can tie up the horse to the cart, and the will to go all over the world. Now, you're all saying to me, Bill, I can hear you saying it. Bill, is there a book on this? Here's the book. The Horse, the Wheel, and Language. And the author is that wonderful man right there, David Anthony, a archaeologist, anthropologist, and he's written this nice book to tell you how all this comes together, the horse, the wheel, and language, and it's all about what we're talking about, the Bronze Age Charioteers. That's what this is all about, the Bronze Age Charioteers. Now, I know you people who've been doing my classes here for a long time have heard about the Bronze Age Charioteers before, but that's good because then it just rolls off your tongue. You see, a four-word title is a long title. If I were suggesting this for some product development in New York at a fancy ad agency, they would throw me out the door. They would say, you can't sell a product called the Bronze Age Charioteers. You got to get a shorter title. But here at the Institute, we can sell it, right? Right, Joel? Right? We can sell Bronze Age Charioteers. Here, yes, sirree, Joel, we can. And therefore, we want to, I just love this picture, so I want to put it up. Isn't that beautiful? This is the charioteer. This is the great Greek bronze called the charioteer in the museum in Athens.